This is Halloween week. Are you guys more of the let me stay home and give candy to the trick-or-treaters, or are you the put on a ridiculous costume and go bar crawling?
I think we're going out. Yeah,
we're going out. Yeah,
we're putting on costumes and going out.
What's your costume?
I am the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland.
I'm going as a mad scientist this year. A little bit more low key, easier one to put together.
Very nice. That sounds very fun. Either way, we've got even more members joining us. So hang tight. There we go. Wonderful. Welcome to the Menagerie.
Howdy. How y'all doing?
We were just talking about Halloween and parties.
Oh, perfect.
If you're at a party, what's the first song that you are adding to the list?
Halloween specific or just party in general?
Party in general.
I think it's probably going to be Before I Let Go by Frankie Beverly and Maze.
All right.
Jared, do you have your sound on speakers right now? It's getting kind of a delay thing.
No, those are off. It's using the iMac mic. Do you still hear delay?
I think
just on like everyone else's voice, not yours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay.
Crazy slapback delay going.
Let me take a look here.
I'm having some flashbacks too.
iMac Pro microphone. Let me switch the speakers to the iMac. Is that helping?
I think so, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, I did it.
Nice, we're good.
Much better. Excellent. Take 3. This is Jackie, and I'm here with some of the gentlemen of Cytrus. We're hanging tough Halloween week. We're getting ready to party, but you've got a new song out, Outta Control. How does it highlight the sound of your album Duality that's out November 14th?
You want to go, Jared?
I'll go for it. I think there was I'll start by saying there was a couple of reasons we chose this as a single. Number one, being that it is so vastly different from anything else in our discography. We kind of wanted to make that statement to fans early on, like, hey, this album is going to be different. It's very much a psychedelic rock album. And I think it ties into the rest of the album in terms of that. A lot of the sounds that we chose, a lot of the instruments we used, very much pay homage to 60s and 70s psychedelic rock. So I think it complements the rest of the album. It mitigates fans' expectations early on and just kind of lets them know that this album is going in a little bit of a different direction than anything else that we have done in the past. But you still have that long form thing, which we've become known for, especially being jam band adjacent in genre. So yeah, I think that's kind of why we chose this single. I think if you like this single, I think there's a good chance you're gonna like the rest of the album too.
Nice. So how was that song born? Did it start from a riff, a melody, a bridge?
So I'll take this one as well. It started with just 2-chord progression, which you'll hear featured in most of the song. And then once I kind of just got I can't remember if this was it started off. Yeah, I think I used one of. Hi, this is Trevor, by the way.
Hi.
I struggle to program drums. It's not my forte. But Trevor is a drummer, and he started experimenting with recording drums on his iPhone. Just for some reason, the way the iPhone compresses the drums, it just sounds good. So he sent me a handful of loops that he recorded with just his iPhone, and I used one of them, recorded guitar and bass for it in the demo, recorded some vocals, and then realized it felt much better when it was slowed down. So really, like, the inception of the song is just iPhone drums, guitar, bass, and some rough vocal ideas, and that's pretty much it. then took that to the guys, and everybody ran with it. And so it honestly changed a lot from the original demo, but purely for the better.
And who or what inspired the songwriting on that track?
Oh man, it's hard to point to like one thing in mind. Like I wanted to write a song that felt like this, but in hindsight, obviously, I think a lot of Pink Floyd heavily inspired that song. I think it's just got to be Pink Floyd. Really, I think that's what shines through the most in the track. Yeah.
Would you say that your songwriting in general, or at least for the current album, is more autobiographical, or is it more fiction?
I would say fiction. I would say that there's not a lot of the songs aren't hyper specific to my personal experience. There are a lot of like musing. There's a lot of musing happening in the album. But I would not say these songs are hyper specific to my life or any of the lives in the band. But I will say that the feelings pulled from like the muses that we have ran with are they're kind of like generalized, but I think it's something that people can connect with in that sense. If something's very hyper specific, it kind of I fear that it like can box a lot of people out. But if it's something that can feel hyper specific without being too on the nose, I think you have a better chance of connecting with a bigger audience.
Like all great fiction, there's some real world sort of essence that inspires different things that take different shapes in the music.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. How are you guys? So I read that, you know, a lot of what people know you for is your live performances. You talked about being jam band adjacent. I really like that phrase. I think that that's kind of helpful to newer listeners. How did you translate those live performances to the recorded album? Because isn't it usually the other way around?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we usually find like we have a song idea and then we kind of play with it, but we really find the structure and whatnot. Like, I mean, I guess it flip-flops. It depends on the song, but I feel like most of the times we kind of find the structure and the parts when we play it live. Because we'll like have a new song and we want to debut it at a show or something like that, and we'll play it, and you know, couple shows down the road, once we get a little bit more comfortable with it, like people start poking in with like clear like parts that they've kind of locked into, where it's like, oh, like that really, I really liked when I played this thing that one show and it really worked. And so we kind of like lock into different riffs or parts or whatever that like kind of start slowly forming like the important parts of the song. But that there are times when we like have like a live song that we play, or like have a little jam that we go into, and they're just like, well, let's actually get into the weeds of this one in the studio and try to like structure this as a song rather than kind of like the other way around. But I feel like most of the times we kind of find the structure within performing it live and then coming back and like kind of like fine tuning it and getting recordings of it for an album or whatever. But yeah.
I think Outta Control definitely had a lot of that approach. And it also kind of had the reverse, where Jared sat down, he recorded we all played the song live together and we recorded more or less the framework of the song. And then Jared sat down and did his sort of final draft guitar solo over it, which had a couple of key licks that he really liked. And then with overdubs after the fact, we sort of synced up on a lot of those riffs to make them sound almost like more written than they actually ever were. I mean, they were written, but they were born out of Jared improvising his solo after we had already recorded like the framework. So it's kind of like these different iterations that then stack into creating more of a final composition in the end.
So there's 8 members. We've got half of the gents. I mean, this is, I was joking earlier that we were having sort of like Zoom lockdown flashback, but this is great. But how on earth with 8 people do you do that? Do you like have the improvisation and then also make progress when you're working on a song?
We get that question all the time.
very, very carefully. I can hop in here. It's been years of like learning how to play with each other musically, and like you're 100% right. Like there are 8 of us, and not only are there 8 of us, but there's 4 keyboards on stage at any given time. And like when you think of an 8-piece, you think of like the core rhythm section, and then maybe like 4 horn players or 3 horn players and a singer, and like. So to have an 8-piece where there's primarily 1 or 2 vocalists and it's very key driven, you have to really be aware of like the spectrum of audio. Like if we have bass down here, and so like having too many things that are in the sub category of like the audio frequency spectrum, it can get really muddied. And also being really intentional of like sitting out, like not playing. It sounds like it's the age-old thing, like less is more. And there's definitely a time in our early stages like where we didn't quite have that dialed in, where we were all just kind of playing and it was all at 10 the whole time. And like with any sports player, you listen back or you watch the show footage or listen to it, and you have to like kind of pick and choose things like, okay, could have sat out here. I like that. Being more intentional, and like we have talkback mics now. We use in-ear monitors, so we can communicate on stage without the audience knowing. That has totally changed our live performances. Now we don't use set lists. So there's a little bit of like a DJ element almost, where you can like look at the crowd and be like, okay, we're kind of losing them here. Let's pick up the tempo, or vice versa. But it also really helps with like, hey, you 3, why don't you guys step back for a second, let this person have a feature and things like that. So like that's really helped a lot. But in terms of making an album, I think we start with, you record the demos, and then you go back and you like punch in your drums, you punch in your bass. And I feel like you kind of get the sense of like what the song needs as you begin to add elements and as you begin to take elements away. Because there are also times where like, oh, I never actually knew you were playing that. And we realized that something we've been playing at our live show doesn't work. It's clashing. Or there are things like, oh, I never heard that before. We need to bring that way up in the album mix. And then because of that, we need to like feature that live. So it's very much like a trial and error process in that sense. But to answer it shortly, is just very carefully with a lot of attention and a lot of thought behind it.
I really like the metaphor of like a sports team and doing the audibles and then watching those plays over and over again. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with so many members playing similar instruments in the similar registers, or else it would be sonically a lot. So I think that it's really wise that you guys came up with a system that worked well to communicate. So I think that's crazy. That's super. I also am just trying to imagine, because I have not had the pleasure of seeing you play live yet. That's a lot of people on stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're not a boy band doing choreography, so.
If we had more space, maybe we would, but yeah, our instruments take up 3/4 of the stage.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times where we have been much bigger than the stage, and we've had to put people on the ground, or like, Brandon sometimes will just like we play at the Nectar Lounge in Seattle a lot, and there's like this little table on the side that like that's like his little designated area that's just like It's not really part of the stage, but it's like big enough for him to stand on, and there
Barely.
are plenty of shows that he's been there.
It's like 4
Not
feet
so much
wide with
anymore,
like
but
2 feet of depth.
yeah.
Any mishaps when live
No,
performing?
luckily not.
Yeah, surprisingly not.
If you put me on a table, I'm going through it for sure.
I'm truly shocked because that does sound like there's a high probability of chaos, but that speaks to what you've learned and kind of what you've taken on.
That's the beauty of a jam set, right? I mean, going in all improvisation, no set list, there's a high probability for chaos, but the payoff is that much greater, you know? So we like playing that game.
High risk, high reward. I appreciate that. That's amazing. With so many members and with new music out, how do you navigate social media in general? We'll start with that.
Ooh, okay, so it's really hard fundamentally to convey what we do, especially coming from jam band adjacent. It's a lot of long form stuff, like we'll take a song that's written at 11 minutes for the studio version, and that can get extended out to 16 to 17 minutes. And so, like, especially in the TikTok age, like how do you water that down, like, without feeling like you're totally like doing away with everything you love about the art form in general. And in short, there's a few things that we're working on now, again, trying to be more intentional with things. So we've been doing like little short form 30-second videos of like, hey, check out this tone, trying to like, hook people on TikTok, because we know attention spans are short and we make long form content. So if we can at least show a synth patch or a bass patch or a drum fill or something like that, that can at least capture some attention. If someone likes a synth video that we make and it implores them to check out our music, I feel like it could open up the world for them in terms of who we are and what we do. One other thing we've started doing is live streaming, which you said you haven't seen us live. That would be a great way to do it. We're about halfway through our live stream virtual tour, and so we have like front of house audio, 5 cameras, visual effects on those cameras, camera switching. It's all automated. We all do it ourselves in-house. We don't have any video switchers or playback operators. And we've been streaming on YouTube and doing these 2-hour-long shows with a set break. And that's been actually proven to be really successful for us, because then that also gives us, once or twice a week, a 2-hour video or two 2-hour videos where we can clip 30-second moments with like the lights strobing and things like that. And we can post that on social media. And so then even if it's these little concentrated moments from these live streams that we can share with people, that's also something that could get them to maybe go to our YouTube, check out a full set, see like what it is that we're actually about, as opposed to like these very short form bite-sized things. But it's difficult. Like it's something we're currently working on. I don't think we've cracked the code in general, but it's something we're working on, trying to make it more bite-sized for people as they're scrolling by. Yeah, that's something we're still working on. We did have like one video recently that just surpassed 100,000 views on TikTok, which was huge for us. And we still are trying to figure out why. What was it about the video that did it? Trying to like replicate it. And it really just comes down to throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. But we have seen positive motion in that way, at least.
You'll never know what work. Like I feel like the more anyone, whether they are a band, a company, an entity, a human, like whatever the goal is that you're trying to do, I feel like the harder you try to focus in, the less successful the results.
It's just like always changing. It's like Trevor showed us this video of like Bo Burnham on like a podcast thing. He's like talking about the internet and talking about tech companies, and he's talking about how it's always changing. Like by the time you figure out what it has already changed. It's already way in the future. And it's like, I just had this moment yesterday with like the Meta ad manager trying to make ads for like our song. And I like a year and a half ago, I took this course on like how to best utilize the Meta Ad Manager, and like learned a lot about how to make these ads and how to specifically target the people who are right in your niche. And now the Meta Ad Manager is completely different from everything I learned. It's infested with AI. Like you can no longer target like specific bands. That was like kind of the bread and butter, is like, okay, I know I can get us in front of people who will like us if they like this band. Now they changed it to like rock music festivals. Like it's just the umbrella. You can no longer get into the niches on the Meta Ad Manager. And it's just like, it's always changing. And by the time you figure it out, it has already changed.
Yeah, that sounds pretty accurate. So figuring out social media in general is just impossible. When you have
Yeah.
music out, how do you balance showing up as your authentic selves and advertising new music? Like where's the safe kind of crossroads?
That is a good question. I always like hope that we can make kind of content that is not just purely entertainment, not just like completely mindless TikTok stuff. I always hope that we can make stuff that is like an extension of our art, and shows people more about ourselves while still being entertainment, but while still paying respect to our art. And I think we're doing a good job with that, of our breakdowns and the way we promote the album.
Definitely. We also have been friends for like, I mean, most of us have been friends since like freshman year of high school. Some of us even before that. So like there's well over 10 years of friendship here. And so with that comes like a lot of, we tend to like know each other's personalities, and we know who's comfortable being a talking head in a video. But there's also like a lot of like back end joking that we do. So trying to bring that out in our videos is something that is something we're trying to work towards. But it's also like, it's really hard to be authentic when you have a phone camera stuff in your face, and trying to get more comfortable with. But also recognizing like kind of what Luke was saying, like we are in like a little bit of a niche in terms of the music that we create, but there's also a wide spectrum that we pull from in terms of those influences. And one thing that we always, we've grown up looking at like rig rundown videos and pedal reviews and how to do this and that. And then we're starting to realize, oh, there's a lot of cool things within our own setup that we do that we couldn't find videos on. We had to kind of just figure it out. And so being able to like open up that avenue of like how to do this video or rig rundowns, or how we apply this piece of technology in our live show or our live streams. And hopefully that can connect us with an audience who is much like us when we were kind of starting to get out and like finding these answers. So between trying to like display our humor, show our art form, but also like kind of double down on the tech side of things and like be a source of information for other bands that are just getting started or who have been going, who just can't find that one answer to that one thing. Because we know that all too well.
And how do you take those sort of 60s and 70s musical influences and put either a modern twist on it, or decide when to just be like, nope, this is authentically, we are just trying to absolutely mimic that sound, but with us?
That was a conversation that happened in one way or another multiple times through the creation of Duality. And it would be like, we'd be midway through a song, we're getting to the point of overdubs, and it'd be maybe a synth tone that we're trying out. And the question might be, is this too modern sounding? Is this going to sort of like break the suspension of disbelief? Kind of like, the environment we've created with this like more like 90s or early 2000s jarring sounding thing? Or does it like kind of enrich the music and create like another layer of relatability with the modern listener, since hopefully we're being mostly listened to by 20, 30, 40-year-olds that grew up listening to that stuff? And so it's just kind of a like follow your nose thing at each step of the way. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I don't think we were ever boxing ourselves out, or rather into things that were era correct. It was more of like an amorphous, like, does this serve the final purpose of the art while not breaking the illusion that we're trying to create? And I think we did a good job of balancing that. Some modernity while still being true to sort of the heritage and tradition of the eras we were playing.
Yeah,
Speaking sorry, go ahead.
yes, like one thing I always think of is my boss. I'm in his basically office right now, but like he's very very much in the like vintage 70s kind of music scene. But he always like brings up the fact that like he's not a Civil War reenactment, but like he just likes the sound of those things. But like if you listen, he's not like 100% trying to make it like completely like, oh, you're completely mistaking this for like a 60s or a 70s thing. He just like is using the equipment that he has liked the sound of and just creating new music out of it. And I feel like that's sort of the approach that we're having, is like we like the aesthetic of this, but we still want to like create our own sound within that space. But yeah, like I just like it's not a Civil War reenactment. We're not trying to be 100% authentic. Like this is like how it sounded or whatever. Like we just like to use the tools and the aesthetics of that, but create something new and maybe a little bit more contemporary sounding within that realm. But
So you're not a purist, and you're not a Fish or Pink Floyd cover band.
yeah.
There's a middle ground there. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we love all eras of music, and I feel like it shows within our music. Like, I feel like it's hard when people ask like me, like, oh, what kind of band is it? And I'm just like, I don't really know. Like, I don't have anything to really compare it to other than like what we brought up, just jam band adjacent. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to look inward, like just like you tell me what we sound like, because I'm the one creating the music and I have no like point of reference, because that's just like, I don't know, it's so hard to like pinpoint yourself.
Yeah, and like I feel like the simplest way to sum it up is like our first album sounded a lot like what it was, a young band making their first album, throwing things at the wall, seeing what they liked. I mean, there's metal on there, there's disco, there's Americana, there's hip hop. There's a lot of different things being blended. And then the second album is like, okay, that psychedelic rock thing that we did on that one song or a few songs from the first album, there's like a project there. And then with the third album that we're currently working on, it's kind of more taking that 80s, 90s R&B disco approach. I won't give too much on that, but
there's still a disco song on Duality, though.
Still a disco song on this album.
Yeah, we're not getting fully away from it.
It sounds more 70s, and so like I think we kind of naturally are taking this path of progression where like you still have all those things from the first album, but they're like expanded upon for this project, and then for the next project it's expanded upon for that. But all roads can kind of like point back to like the inception from that first album, which was just a collage of everything that we liked. So it's really not that different in the sense. It feels definitely more focused, curated, refined. There's now like singer-songwriter elements that are in this new album that we kind of just discovered we had. So yeah, I think that's the best way to approach it.
So what you're saying is it's probably less difficult than I would think it is to create a set list using songs from both albums.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, how do you go from all these options to more streamlined? But then that makes a lot more sense. The title, in fact, Duality, what does that represent for you guys and your current sound?
You want to go for it, Owen?
I'll give it a shot. So I think a big part of it, at least at first, as we were sort of talking about themes, and so the first iteration of Duality as a concept came from the song Duality of Man, which was a 2-part song, more or less, dual sides. One starts off a little sort of like softer, prettier, sort of not quite whimsical, but that era of like 60s psychedelic rock. And then it builds into this sort of cacophonous, not quite chaotic, but very heavy sort of ending outro solo. And the song as a whole lasts over 12 minutes long. And so that sort of gave birth to like the two sides of man, of a person, of the human experience. And then we kind of liked how that with the first album, the closing song was sort of the essence of the album. And we wanted to keep that tradition going. So with this being like the obvious climactic outro song for the album, we wanted that theme to sort of be the foundation of album 2. So that's why Duality that's how the name came about. On top of that, it kind of felt like, in the meta sense, sort of a response to the first album's more hodgepodge, less focused, defined approach. It felt like this is kind of the second side of us, where we can sort of lock in, sit down, and create something a little bit more cohesive and coherent and aesthetically focused. I think that's the best way to put it.
I believe you. That works for me. We've got new music out, so we've got the first single out. You already have, well, you're already working on album number 3. So do you already have your second single chosen?
For the second album?
Yes.
So we are only doing one single.
Okay. Tell me about that choice, that decision.
So we went with Outta Control, and then we realized like we don't want to give away the opener of the album, and then we don't want to give away the closer of the album. And Outta Control felt like the most different song to kind of like set fans up and be like, hey, this is a psychedelic rock album. There's like, it's not like a ballad, but it is slower in tempo. And so like that kind of, like we were talking about earlier, set the playing field for like, this is what this album is going to sound like. And then if we choose the song right before it or right after it, you're giving away like almost 20 minutes of music, or like 17 minutes of music. It's like that didn't feel like the greatest choice either. The 5th song on the album, that didn't feel like single material. So we kind of found ourselves in this, like, okay, well, there's really 2 songs to choose from that could be the second single, but both of them are right next to Outta Control. They're either right before or right after. And so we're not really big fans of like if an album comes out and it's 5 or 6 songs and you heard 3 of them as singles, it kind of like ruins the album listening experience. Which is something we hold very near and dear, is like still listening to full albums, specifically conceptual albums. And so that kind of led us to this decision of like, well, one single, it's 11 minutes long. It's kind of anti-single in that sense. It's not like the 2 or 3 minute singles that we're all used to. So it's like a little bit of risk reward there. But ultimately that's why we went with the one.
So with new music out, what does the rest of the year look like for the band as far as touring and playing live?
We have we have a few shows coming up, or there's one in New Year's Eve,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was one in November, right?
Yeah.
But
In a couple weeks.
those are the only 2 that I can think of, if I'm not.
Yeah, let me pull it up here.
We didn't really fill out the end of the year too much, which allowed us to focus on streaming, which was actually pretty nice, as well as writing new music, since we have a lot of momentum with album 3 right now. So kind of taking it easy for us to end the year, but we do have a big New Year's Eve kind of closer, which will be fun. It's our second New Year's Eve show that we've played, which is just a very fun energy. I think the first time was sort of suppressed by just getting out of COVID, so this will be
There's also like an ice
party.
storm that night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think it's a wise choice. I think a lot of people are like laser focused on spending their money on gifts this time of year, especially this year. So, doing streaming is probably a really wise way to reach out to fans. I think that's a great idea. So stay tuned for a lot more from Cytrus. Be sure to grab Duality out November 14th. And this is Jackie. Thanks to Chorus FM and In the Key of Change. Thank you so much, gentlemen.